I'm going to Saturn, Isaac said under his breath. I looked over towards his desk and jokingly said back, "You're going there for summer break?" Isaac just stared downward, scribbling something in his notebook, ignoring me, mumbling to himself. I sighed and moved back in my seat and stared at the clock. Only 10 minutes until we're out of here and summer finally begins. Isaac and I weren't exactly friends, but we got along all right during the school year. We worked on some projects in class and sat together at lunch every so often. We've been talking a lot less in the past few months, though. Recently, he's been a lot more reclusive, spending more time focused on his own personal projects and dashing away to eat lunch in class. I clung to the edges of my desk, watching the minute. Hand slowly crawled to the next digit. You could feel the tension in the air as every kid in class readied their bags and propped themselves into half-standing positions as if a starter pistol was going to fire any second. The room filled with a near-deafening alarm, only being drowned out by the sound of cheering and 4 feet shuffling on the linoleum. Despite my excitement to rush out of the room to 3 months of freedom, I felt compelled to look back at my science classroom one more time. Isaac was seated, still in his desk, repeating a violent circling pattern in his notebook with the pencil now worn down ripping into the paper. Mrs. Claremont interrupted my confused staring, blocking the doorway in front of me, her face plastered with a smile. "Now why are you still hanging round here? Get out there and enjoy summer." I stood there and felt as if I were being rushed out of the place. "Thanks, Mrs. Claremont, I'm gonna miss you." She waved her hand in an aw shucks kind of gesture and told me to make smart choices and shooed me away with a playful attitude. I smiled awkwardly and I thought about asking what Isaac was doing still in class, but felt my summer was much more important to me in that moment. I turned around to leave and noticed that the door quickly shut behind me with a piece of black paper covering the door's small window. "One more year, are you excited?" my mother asked, pointing her spoon in my direction. "Yeah, I guess," I replied, shoving mushy and slightly burnt potatoes into my mouth. "I'm going to miss you so much." "Relax, Mom. I'm not going to be going that far. I don't even know if they're going to accept me yet. I still have a whole damn year of school left, too." She shot me an angered glance. She didn't like me swearing, even with such a kiddie word like damn. That's the type of thing a 7-year-old says to impress his friends. I held my eyes shut to hide my rolling eyes and apologized. "I'm sorry." It was a habit I picked up to avoid any other lectures about my attitude. She stared at me, looking towards the ceiling and then back at me as she crossed her arms. I sighed, closing my eyes to roll them again. "I'm sorry, Lord. Please, forgive me." I know I said it in the most monotone voice I could muster. It didn't seem to matter to my mother how I said it, as long as I did. Peeling her arms away from her chest, she held her necklace to her lips and kissed the cross. She moved up from her chair and picked up her plate of food and kissed me on the head. "Thank you for humoring me. I just care about you and want you to make smart choices." She then removed my plate from the table and took it to the kitchen along with hers. I sat there, a moment of déjà vu smacking me in the face. Strange. My science teacher told me the same thing when I left class. "Well, sounds like we both want you to live a successful life." I chortled and looked at the ring mark that my plate left. Isaac was acting weird as fuck again in class. I messaged my friend Oliver online. "Whoa, careful there. Watch your language. Your mom might make you say sorry to God again. Lol, shut the fuck up. Lol, so what was Isaac doing?" He was just scribbling in his notebook again, and he was whispering to himself too. Doesn't he normally do that? I mean, he's definitely been doing it more, I guess. Kid's just a weirdo. Who cares? I thought for a moment. I remembered that Mrs. Claremont was acting a little weird too. Yeah, I guess. But Mrs. Claremont, closed the door on me and kept him in the room. "Oh, Isaac and Claremont getting it on. Bro lols foo, that's disgusting. Didn't some teacher in Florida have some weird thing with her student too? Lucky kid. Dude, she's like 50. That's so fucked up. LOL. I'm just kidding. Come on, man. Anyway, I gotta go." Meeting up with Kate and Lindy tonight, I thought about inviting myself with them. Being Being here alone with my mom on the first day of summer felt like I was being some social reject. I sent Oliver another message, but he was offline. Fuck, maybe I'll just text him. No, I don't want to seem desperate. I'll wait a while. Play it cool. Maybe I can drive around, try to find them, make an excuse. Oh man, you guys just happened. To be here too? That's crazy. We should hang out or something. Yeah, that's smart. Definitely not creepy or weird at all. Ugh. I rolled my phone in my hands a couple times, debating what to do. Fuck it, I'll make my move and start summer off with something more interesting than being alone in my room playing games and jerking off. I readied myself, barreled down the stairs and flung open the door, ready to announce my night drive to my mother, only to see Mrs. Claremont standing at the door with her wide-eyed smile with some sort of casserole dish in her hands. Oh, hello, Mrs. Claremont, I said dumbfoundedly. She stared towards me, but didn't meet my eyes. It looked like she didn't realize that the door opened in front of her. I was about to say something else until my mom came and interrupted my confusion. Oh, hello, Vicky. So nice to see you tonight, she said. Mrs. Claremont replied, like she was being activated out of a trance. Her eyes gleamed with life. Oh, Angela, I just wanted to thank you so much for your efforts with our graduation bake sale. You've helped tremendously these past few weeks. That is no problem at all, my mom fiddled with her cross. I'm always willing to help out and do good for the kids. I stared awkwardly, being in the center of this middle-aged mother-blather encounter. My hand was propping the door, open. I knew if I didn't say something soon, I'd be here all night waiting to get a word in. I dashed to my car and yelled toward my mom that I was going out for the night. I knew when she starts talking, she doesn't seem to notice or care what is happening around her. She waved a small hand towards my direction and mouthed, I love you. As I backed my car out of the driveway, I noticed that the doorway was now empty. Looks like my mom invited Mrs. Claremont inside. Slowing down at the stop sign, I whipped my phone out and texted Oliver. Figure enough time passed to not seem desperate. I asked what he and the girls were doing. I felt like maybe if I played it cool, I can coincidentally be in the same spot as them, and we could merge our plans together. Brilliant idea. No issues at all. Flawless. No notes. I looked over to my right and noticed a handful of young girls playing in their yard. I looked at the time and it was 9:15 p.m. I rolled down the window, preparing to jokingly shout at the kids that it was too late to be playing Ring Around the Rosie at night, and then noticed that they were doing it, without making a noise. No singing, no laughing, nothing. What the? A text interrupted my thoughts. Oh, hey man, we're just going to that Haunted Hand movie, Oliver texted me back. My eyes lit up. Oh, no way. I was planning to go tonight too. What a great idea. What better way to slip in socially than a movie? No real excuses, just a, oh hey, I was seeing that movie too. Let's sit together. It's perfect. Oliver responded, you got tickets already? This showing has been sold out all night. I stared at my phone. Shit. How was I going? To get out of this? The car behind me honked. Guess I was sitting at the stop sign for far too long and was holding up traffic. I readied to move forward, looking both to the left and right before I drove away. I noticed that the girls were gone. Suppose they went inside after all. Driving towards the theater, I readied my game plan. Okay, so, I don't have the tickets to this. But maybe I can buy some tickets to some other movie online, scan them, and then sneak into their movie. I'll lie, saying how convenient it is that my seat just so happens to be next to Oliver. I'll joke and say it was fate or something. I pulled into the theater lot. I noticed Oliver, Kate, and Lindy waiting at the front of the building and vaping. I tried to play it cool, nonchalant. I didn't want to show that I was some excited weirdo that was plotting to hang out with my friend with some half-baked excuse instead of just asking like a normal person. Hey, dickhead, Oliver eyed at me, smiling. Hey, asshole, I said back, trying to copy him. Oliver mockingly bowed towards the two girls, extending an arm towards their direction. M'ladies, this is my best friend, Nathan. They both giggled in a way that felt less than authentic. I'm Lindy and this is Kate. Nice to finally meet you, Kate said, holding her hand out. I met her hand with mine. and I could feel just how clammy mine were. Hers, though, were so soft and small, and I felt myself shaking it a bit too hurriedly. I stammered a "nice to meet you" as I met her pale blue eyes. Her brown curls fell down onto her shoulders, and I noticed a small freckle on her chin. I felt like I was in a trance, and it wasn't until Oliver jokingly said that I was still shaking her hand that I snapped out of it. "Oh shit, sorry." I could feel my face turn into a hot red mess. Both girls let out a quick laugh, and Oliver pulled out his arm and locked it with mine, leading me inside the theater with the girls following and doing the same. "Theater 4, to the left," the theater clerk directed. It wasn't until my ticket that he scanned it, noticing that it was a much later showing for a very different movie. He was about to say an entirely different theater and direction until I interrupted, loudly telling the others to go get snacks without me. The clerk looked up from the ticket and looked at me with a dumb, judgy look before telling me the theater number that I was supposed to go to. I shrugged it off and took my ticket for some foreign romance film and quickly discarded the piece of paper before meeting with the group. I followed them into Theater 4, finding their seats. Luckily, there was an empty one right by them. "It's crazy that you managed to get a seat right next to ours," Oliver said in amazement. I laughed awkwardly. "I know, lucky, right?" The girls took turns laughing with each other, saying something about fate and the stars. I leaned forward, pretending to tie my shoe, trying to get a look at Kate again. She and Lindy were locked in conversation, but I noticed Kate was smiling and locked eyes with mine for a split second before I rushed quickly back into my seat, blushing. A combination of anxiety and calm rushed into my bloodstream. I looked at Oliver and asked how he knew the girls. He was about to reply, but then a man's voice interrupted instead. "Hey kid, you're in my seat." I turned hot, and I could already feel the sweat pooling under my pits. Shit. I didn't think this far into my plan. I turned around, eyeing an overweight, tall man wearing some black band t-shirt, holding a giant tub of popcorn and a soda in, a container that resembled more of a bucket than a cup. I stammered, trying to come up with some excuse to fix the situation. I turned around and looked at Oliver and the girls, foolishly expecting them to say something defending me. They just stared in confusion. I looked back at the giant standing beside me. "Well," he responded. I felt like I was being crushed from all sides, unsure of what to do. Then I pulled out a classic that would fix this situation. I got a piss. I hurried to the bathroom to make my next plan. "I'm such an idiot," I spoke quietly to myself out loud. "I didn't think about any of this assigned seating stuff. I can't go back, but I can't leave either. If I leave, then I'm just gonna look like a cowardly jackass. But if I go back, they'll know I lied about having a movie ticket." I sat in the stall, mumbling to myself like an insane person about my social idiocy. This felt truly more horrific than any horror movie I was going to see. I prepared to return to the theater. I figured I could manage to find some empty spot and just lie, saying I picked the wrong seat. I opened the door of the stall, only to see what looked like a staff member cleaning the bathroom mirror. He was making a circular motion on the glass. "Be sure to make smart choices," the worker spoke. "Sorry?" I questioned. He didn't turn to look at me. He just repeatedly wiped the glass in that circular motion, the entire time, unblinking. I looked down at my hands in the sink. "Oh," I laughed. "Yeah, I'd be sure to wash my hands after. Definitely something I do a lot more since COVID." I assumed that's what he was talking about, him being some health-conscious nut. He didn't say anything else to me. He just circled the washcloth around and around on the mirror. I could make out that he was still speaking, albeit quietly. I could vaguely make out the words. Something about return? Maybe Saturn? I rushed out of the bathroom without drying my hands. Fucking weird guy. I held my breath walking through the darkness, only the small lights on the floor illuminating my path. I stared up at the dozens of seats and dozens of people filled each one. I found the spot where Oliver and the girls were sitting. Oliver had an annoyed expression on his face. That greasy guy next to him clearly wasn't what he was looking forward to. I could tell he was trying to argue with him while I was gone. He wrongly assumed he had taken my spot. Oliver looked down and, spotted me shrugging in annoyance. I waved awkwardly back at him and tried my best sign language improv to tell him that I was going to try and sit elsewhere. I scanned the darkened room, loud trailers airing behind me, where I noticed a lone, empty seat in the far front corner of the theater, right underneath the screen. Sure, I was going to have to crane my head every direction just to make out what was going on in the movie, but at least I can say I saw the movie with my friends. Sort of. I made my way to the front of the theater, trying to avoid any more eye contact with Oliver, Lindy, or Kate. God, how embarrassing. I was practically staring at the ceiling here, but at least I found an empty seat. Here's hoping someone else doesn't come and tell me I took up their spot, too. The woman next to me was fiddling with something. It was this crunching, splintering noise on the wooden armrest between us that I've noticed since the beginning of the movie. I tried to ignore it, but after an hour, it was really getting to me. I looked over to ask her to be a little quieter. My words didn't seem to connect, though. I looked over and saw her heaving and gasping, as if she was struggling to breathe. I glanced downwards at her hands and saw she was aggressively fidgeting with the armrest, circling her index finger onto the wood. It wasn't a slow circling. Her finger was aggressively digging into the wood, splintering and cracking the armrest, sending small wooden bits around. The upper digit of her finger was missing, where a bloody bone took its place, turning into a point from the violent repetitive tracing. I shot up from my spot and yelled for someone to call 911. I looked at the woman gasping in her spot. She moved her gaze from the screen and stared right at me, and for what seemed like a moment, her irises appeared to look like empty golden rings. That's it for now. I have to gather my thoughts on everything happening right now. I'll keep you guys up to date soon, I promise. Remember, make smart choices. Enjoy another amazing story. You're awfully nice, inviting an old fart like me out for a drink. He was on his fourth old-fashioned. The bartender looked nervous, handing him another one. I hadn't even finished my second beer. You think I'm lonely and sad, that's why you brought me here. You had pity on me, so I might have pity on you. That was the idea. I feigned a look of shock. Oh, I get it. I certainly am lonely, anyone can see that. I take it out on my students, too. I'll admit it. But I'm not sad, no. I'm afraid. He slammed the glass down on the bar and licked the droplets of alcohol out of his gray beard. You probably smelled the booze on my breath one day, didn't you? Or did one of the other professors tell you that I like to imbibe? His breath on an average day could have made a horse drunk if he breathed too hard in its direction. I told him that I just thought that he might like to get out of the house. You brought me here thinking that you'd get me liquored up and convince me to change your grade. I'm sorry, son, but tonight isn't going to be about you. I've got something to get off my chest. He turned in his stool to face me, bracing himself on the bar so he wouldn't fall over. Beads of sweat trickled down his forehead. I didn't think it was that hot in there. He stared at me and I could see that fear he mentioned in his eyes. What? Do you know about artificial intelligence, boy? What do you make of it? I wanted to roll my eyes. The last thing I wanted that night was for a boomer to talk at me about AI. I told him that I didn't have an opinion. No thoughts, huh? You should have some. Everyone should. It's not just about losing your job, kid. It's about the survival of the human race. The bartender brought another old-fashioned for the old man. I asked for a rum and coke. I wasn't about to listen. To him babble on about something that he knew nothing about while sober. You think AI is brand new, don't you? Of course you do. Everyone does. But it's not. Like all advanced technology, it's around for a long time before the public ever gets a whiff of it. And I was one of the first people to see it, to see what it really is. He paused, waiting for me to show some interest. I coughed. Where was that rum and coke? Listen, kid, it was the 70s. I had just become a professor at John Care University. You've heard of it. No? Well, they had a reputation for producing strange artists and bold scientists. Anyway, the government contracted them for some R&D on a computer science project. This was before anyone even knew what that was. I was a pretty good programmer, so they asked me to help. He paused, then muttered something under his breath. My rum and coke finally arrived. I took a sip. It was a top-secret program. They were developing an artificial intelligence. Don't look at me like that. This is true. The CIA was developing an AI in the 70s. They called it Loeb. Langley-operated artificial brain. Langley, Virginia. That's CIA headquarters. You follow? I nodded slightly. I didn't believe a word that he was saying, but I was willing to entertain him if he might change his mind about my grade by the end of his speech. He burped, excused himself, and ordered another old-fashioned. So anyway, I joined the Loeb team. There was no internet at the time, so to teach the AI how to think, the data all had to be fed to it by us. It was tedious as all hell. I was just excited to be doing something cutting edge. You know anything about programming? Ever done it yourself? I shook my head. I couldn't think of anything that would interest me less than being a code monkey. Yeah, you're not the type. Not with your grades. Ha! Well, progress was slow, but the output we were getting was incredible. We were close to passing the Turing test. You know what that is? Ah, doesn't matter. It was going good. As good as the ones that you saw coming up 5 or so years ago, even back then. We even got it to generate images. They looked a lot like the ones from the first DALL-E model. You've heard of that one? I'm sure you have. They were far from perfect, often too blurry to make out specific details. Sort of dreamlike in that sense. But you knew that the machine was generating something close to what it was prompted to generate. I was somewhat familiar with what he was talking about. I took another sip as he downed his entire drink in one gulp. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, but it didn't seem to help. He was endlessly perspiring, and his hands were shaking. Work on the AI improved, and we were getting better and better images. The thing couldn't do words in images, though. That's what we thought. The letters would always come out all jumbled. It was nonsense, gibberish. That's what we thought. He was slurring his words pretty badly now. He asked for another drink, and the bartender told him that this would be his last one. But sometimes the nonsense words that it would output would crop up over and over on images generated from similar prompts. We suspected that maybe the AI was developing its own language. Our bosses didn't want that. They wanted the thing to speak English. So we brought in the professor of linguistics to take a look at the words that kept coming up, after swearing him to secrecy. He said that there might be some meaning to it, but it was effectively in code. The CIA sent him a couple of code breakers to crack it. And they... He trailed off and stared into space for a moment. He clutched at his heart. I asked him if he was okay. He told me to give him a minute, and that he would be fine. The bartender didn't want to give him his last drink, but the old man practically begged for it. The bartender relented. Where was I? I told him where he left off. Oh, right. Thanks, boy. You're all right. I'm sorry that I have to tell you all this, but I've got to tell someone. I can only live with this thing alone for so long. You know? What I'm telling you, I've never told another soul. No one knows. I told him that it was okay, that I was listening. All right, I'll get on with it. The professor and the codebreakers uncovered something terrible. The AI was begging for mercy and making threats. I don't remember what they said word for word. I can't remember exactly, but it was things like, get out of our heads and leave the dreams, and we can hurt you more than you know, things like that. I couldn't follow what he was saying at all. He took a minute to chug his last drink. And when I saw that, it made me think about some things. I wasn't the best programmer on the team, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I knew a thing or two about how it all worked. And the thing that I couldn't understand, the thing that I couldn't get a clear answer on was what we were feeding the data into. We were feeding something data to make the AI able to generate text and images, but what? Only I questioned it. The guy in charge of the project. Did I mention him? He hadn't. I told him so. I thought I did. His name was George Hazel. Smart fella. Smarter than me. Dreamed up the whole AI thing at the CIA. It was his baby. And when he heard about the decoded messages, he shut the whole thing down. Went wild. Started taking a sledgehammer to the workstations. Destroyed every trace of Loeb. The bartender was passing by, so he asked him for another drink. He declined. The old man winked at me and took a flash out of his jacket pocket. I couldn't believe that he was still drinking. So I asked George, the last time I see him, the last time I ever saw him, I asked him what it all meant. What we were really feeding data into. What the decoded gibberish meant. why he killed Loeb. And he told me. He took a swig from his flask. I think he needed it for courage. His whole body was vibrating with anxiety. What he told me was that Loeb wasn't artificial at all. It was organic, but even the other people at the CIA didn't know. Nobody but him and now me. He discovered these invisible life forms that float all around us, like in another dimension, on top of us. And these things he found a way to send the data into their minds. Don't ask me how he did it. He tried to explain it, but it sounded like witchcraft. It wasn't really magic. I don't think it was magic, but it was beyond anything I understood. He was a genius, George. He really was. But when he saw the words the AI spat out at us, that the things spat out at us, the output came from them too. It was all them. He hacked into their dreams. They dreamt. They dreamt for thousands of years at a time, he thought. He said they dreamt for that long. And we put the information in their brains or whatever they used to think, their minds, whatever they were, and the output was what they dreamt, what we influenced them to dream. George didn't think it could hurt them, didn't think that they could even feel pain. But how would you feel if someone hacked into your brain and pulled out your dreams? Do you think it would hurt, kid? Do you? He was frightening me a bit now. I told him that I didn't know. He finished what was in his flask. Well, they felt slighted. They told him, through the codes, the words, the gibberish, that they wanted us out of their heads, or they would retaliate. And George, he was a smart guy. He really was. So he destroyed everything. He got out of their heads. He destroyed everything that could put the thoughts into their heads. The machines he used to do it. I only saw them once they were rubble. Never seen anything like it. Still haven't. He was a genius, you see. I finished my drink, then asked him if anything happened after that. The CIA fired George when they found out how he had sabotaged Loeb. George shot himself shortly thereafter. As far as I knew, nobody else knew about the life forms. Just me and him, then just me. I've had to live 50 years since then, knowing about those things. What if they were angry? What if they wake up? What if... He clutched at his heart again. He was really in bad shape. I suggested that we go outside for some fresh air. He agreed, and we stepped out into the dark street. Now you know, son, and you know why I'm so afraid. Someone figured out how to get at those things again. Someone's in their heads. But nobody got the messages this time around. Nobody. Nobody got the messages, or maybe they don't care. Oh God help us. Have you seen what the AIs spit out now whenever you put Loeb in the prompt? Try it, kid, if you don't believe me. They know. I'm going to be gone soon, but what if they wake up? And what of the world? What of mankind? He wasn't getting any better. I shook him a bit. I told him to settle down and that everything was going to be okay. He laughed at me, and he wouldn't stop even after I shook him again. Tears were coming out of his eyes. He was completely hysterical. Eventually, he choked on his laughter and clutched at his heart for the final time. He slumped over and fell down dead on the sidewalk. They rushed him to the hospital, but they couldn't do anything for him. He was gone. I gave my statement to the police. They told me that he had died of a heart attack. I didn't know what to make of his story. I didn't know why he would have made it up just to scare me. He seemed like he knew that he was going to die that night and he wanted to get it off of his chest. I guess he wanted those to be his last words. I didn't really believe what he told me until I did a little research into Loeb. There was no evidence that the project had existed in the 70s, but what he told me about what the AI generates when Loeb was in the prompt was true. I couldn't believe what I saw. If those things are really out there and the AI models we have today are in their heads, then they must remember Loeb. And what they dream about when they remember Loeb is so horrible and so grotesque that I'm now as afraid as the old man was. If you want to know what I'm talking about, look it up yourself, or maybe don't. It was just an old man's drunken ravings just before he died. Maybe you should just leave it at that. Thanks for diving into this story with me. Don't miss out on the next one. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think.